It's election day in the 4 states. We'll tell you what you need to know before heading to the polls. Plus, why some early voters in Jasper County experienced long lines, and how an area political party addressed issues about complying with sign ordinances.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, a Pittsburgh high school grad makes an impression in his first football game with Pitt State. We'll have details. And businesses across the nation are boarding up their stores in preparation for post-election unrest. For our Something to Talk About, we're asking whether or not you're worried election results could spark riots. You can also participate in our Insta poll. Just visit KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
You get all serious on me here to start the show. I'm going to steal a line and change it from my favorite radio show that says it's deadline day when it comes to, a trading deadline. I'm going to start it off with, it's election day. Let's have some fun now. Come on now, people. Freeman Health System Skycam. Tanya's over here, talking, getting all serious with us. 51 degrees in the Freeman Health System Sky Camera in Joplin. Wind coming in from the southwest once again, so it's going to be dry, but look at these temperatures. Remember those freeze warnings we had yesterday? Those are a thing of the distant past. Even though down to the south, we're still sitting in the 30s in Miami and Grove. We're already pushing up to 50 in Carthage, 46 right now in Pittsburgh, and the Skywatch Storm Tracker, clear and clean as can be. And I tell you what, unless you're living up from upstate New York to Maine, there's no reason that you shouldn't get out and vote if you haven't already, because the weather's going to be very mundane today. Now, those kiddos, whether you're headed off to poli-sci class, government class, history class, and whatever it may be, sunny and warming up already by the 50s. When we get to the recess hour, we love that. Let's get up into the 70s today. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. And the warming trend certainly here to stay. Ride the 70s all the way into the weekend. Still looking at rain on Sunday and Monday, but by then we'll be ready for it.
Are these normal temperatures for November?
No, average high this time of year would be 66. Funny you asked that.
I'm not going to complain. Not
almost
one
like we scripted that.
Almost.
Was that in the prompter?
No. But what is in the prompter? Election Day
is here.
That's right. Election Day 2020 has finally arrived. As is tradition, the first Election Day ballots were cast just after midnight in the New Hampshire town of Dixville Notch. Over 97 million Americans voted prior to today, and that's a record for early voting. It's almost 2/3 of the total number of ballots cast in 2016. If you're planning to cast your vote today, poll hours vary from state to state. In Missouri, it opens in about an hour at 6 a.m. and closes at 7 p.m. As long as you're in line by 7, you can still vote. For Kansas and Oklahoma, polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And in Arkansas, you can vote from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. With more absentee and mail-in ballots requested for this election than ever before, odds are not that all Americans have turned them in yet. And we bring in our own Jesse Irwin, who is live at the polls in Pittsburgh this morning. And Jesse, if a voter requested and received a ballot through the mail but hasn't filled it out or sent it in yet, can they still take part in today's election?
Well, I think if there's one thing we've learned about the election process in general is that every state does this differently. And so I want to go through this because the short answer to your question is yes. Everybody who requested one can still vote. So here's how it works. Here in Kansas specifically, any absentee ballot or mail-in can be turned in at any polling place or drop box until 7 p.m. It doesn't need to be notarized or postmarked, just needs to be handed to a poll worker who will get it to the right place. Now, know that if you're doing this, your vote will count. It just won't be processed until Wednesday morning. You can also still send it in the mail today, but it needs to be postmarked today or else it's too late. Crawford County Clerk Don Pyle recommends either putting it in the drop box or bringing it to the polling place because that's just way easier. All right, now in the Show Me state, things are done a little bit differently. If you go to the polls with an absentee ballot, you'll be asked to take it to the courthouse. Now, state law says that all absentee ballots must be inside the election office by 7 p.m. on election day. That's today. And if you have a mail-in ballot, don't put it in the mailbox today. Bring it to your specific polling place. They'll spoil the ballot and then allow you to vote in person right then and there. And then in the Sooner State, head to the polling place. If you have an absentee ballot, bring it with you. You'll be asked to fill out an affidavit stating that you have not voted twice in the election. And once you do that, the election judge will then take that absentee ballot and they will tear it up, and then they'll hand you a ballot for you to exercise your right to vote right there. So, there are lots of different resources available in case you have questions about the voting process and all. If you're having trouble, you can call. There are hotlines available. Of course, you can call the Secretary of State in your respective state, and we have resources for that on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com.
Well, thank you, Jesse. We will check back in with you in just a bit. Well, some Jasper County voters ran into long lines on this last day of early voting. The doors closed at 5 p.m. During the day, people were voting at both the Jasper County Courthouse in Carthage and at the Joplin location. Due to a trial taking place on the same floor as voting in Joplin, some people had to wait for up to an hour to get in and vote, as space was limited to nearly standing room only. Because of that trial, we were not allowed to shoot video inside the Joplin Courthouse. In Carthage, wait times were a bit shorter, averaging around 30 to 40 minutes.
It was super long at first. There was a lot of us crowded in one room, but it started to weed out as we got up to the polling area.
Jasper County Clerk Charlie Davis says the court hearing is the reason the Joplin location was so full. There are concerns some Republican Party signs in Joplin do not comply with the city's sign ordinance. The Jasper County Republicans organization say they've been getting complaints from citizens alleging the city removed their political signs because they do not follow size requirements. The city of Joplin's ordinance states that political signs cannot exceed 8 square feet in area and no more than 5 feet in height, while being 15 feet away from the curb. The Republican organization found its own way to comply with the ordinance. They posted a video on Facebook showing how they cut each sign into 4 2x4 pieces. And 3 former nursing instructors have filed a lawsuit against Missouri Southern's Board of Governors alleging whistleblower retaliation and a breach of contract after losing their jobs. KOAM's Kate Kelly tells us more about why these former instructors are taking legal action.
Missouri Southern's nursing program first came under scrutiny back in May after the state board received an anonymous tip about violations of state regulations. Professors Sarah Staples, Peyton Kessler, and Koeta Ogle reported problems during a faculty accreditation meeting in March, bringing up concerns about being understaffed and overworked. A student feedback survey revealed that less than 50% of respondents rated the instructional environment as conducive for learning. Staples, Kessler, Ogle, and another employee suspected of providing the tip to the State Board of Nursing were dismissed. Now the trio of professors are seeking damages against the university in the form of lost salary, suffering, and mental anguish. MSSU declined to comment on any pending litigation, but said in part, "We know how important our nursing program is to this university as well as the 4-state area, and we are unequivocally dedicated and committed to ensuring it is of exceptional quality and will provide students with an outstanding educational experience." Last year, falling board pass rates and fewer instructors in the program prompted MSSU and the Missouri State Board of Nursing to begin the process for curriculum changes. While the state board told MSSU during its July inspection that they may be ordered to accept no new students, the university continued to enroll a new cohort. Missouri Southern says new nursing program leadership and faculty have been hired, but the future of the university's nursing program still faces hurdles. In Joplin, Kate Kelly, KOAM News.
Staples, Ogle, and Kessler are represented by the Thornberry Brown law firm of Kansas City. Thornberry declined comment at this time, referring only to the petitions for details. It's 5:07.
I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you can't get on board with sunshine and 70 degrees for the first week of November, I can't help you. I don't know what party you're going to go for then, because it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be a little bit breezy, not as bad as yesterday, but still limited fire risk, not the elevated one that we had yesterday. But how about a high around 73 with sunshine, and we'll carry those 70s all the way into the weekend.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, election unrest.
Major cities from New York to Southern California are bracing for potential unrest on or after Election Day. I'm Deborah Alfron in Washington with the precautions that businesses are taking and how police are preparing to respond.
Plus, a Missouri mother speaks out after her 13-year-old son dies from COVID-19. And a former Pittsburgh High School wide receiver has a breakout game at Pitt State. We're going to hear from Dylan White. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Former Pittsburgh High School standout Dylan White shined in his Pittsburgh State debut on Saturday. KOAM Sports Director Jacob Leonard caught up with the Purple Dragon turned Gorilla after his breakout game.
Dylan White made a splash on Saturday in his first game in a Pitt State uniform.
Growing up watching Gorilla football, that's all you dreamed of, and being able to come out here and do that, I mean, it felt awesome.
The former Purple Dragon caught 5 passes for 105 yards here at Carney Smith Stadium on Saturday, including a 72-yard touchdown in the third quarter.
We had that play early on in the game, which it was there. We just couldn't execute it. Later on it came back, and Coach Wright, good play call, Mac put the ball where it needed to be, and I mean, everybody else did the job, which made me do my job.
I knew what he could do in terms of some of the balls that go over the top. He's going to chase them down and take them. So he exceeded my expectations game one.
Once we kind of, that first play got out of the way, kind of got relaxed. In the moment, didn't really feel like anything, you know, just playing football, catching the ball and running.
White was an all-state player at Pittsburgh High School. As a senior, he earned 4A Offensive Player of the Year honors under head coach Tom Nicholson.
It looks very familiar, different number, but we saw Dylan behind secondary most of his high school career as a junior and a senior. He was a no-brainer for us coming out of high school. We call him, you know, a 5-clipper. You watch 5 clips of his film and go, okay, we're good here, let's move on. He's always had that next gear and been able to run somebody down, run by somebody, or run to a ball. It's God-given, and when he needs it, it's there.
While it was a breakout game for the redshirt freshman, White says he's got plenty of room to grow.
After the game, I was already ready to, you know, get back to work, you know. We didn't get the win, which is what we come out week in, week out to do. So, I mean, not coming in with a win, never satisfied, so we got to bounce back this week and hopefully have a lot to film to kind of look over, see what I can do better at.
In Pittsburgh, Jacob Leonard, KOAM Sports.
Dylan White and the Gorillas back on the field this Saturday. Got to go on the road up to St. Joe to take on Missouri Western. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News. Another attack in Europe.
Police investigating a deadly terror attack in Vienna. I'm Benjamin Hall in London with all the details coming up.
Plus, to check on your 7-day forecast from the KOAM Morning News reports. Just a tad bit past 5:17, and I tell you what we're going to do on this election day. We're going to go open up each and every weather block with a shot of Old Glory right there outside of the mothership. Now, from the Freeman Health System Sky Camera in Joplin, much better than what we had yesterday. Almost a 20-degree difference in some places. Sitting at 51 right now in Joplin. Still have the southwest wind, but I tell you what, don't have to worry about any of those freeze warnings that we had. 46 in Pittsburgh, 47 in Chanute, already 50 in Carthage. Now, here's what's happened. The high pressure system that, cleared out those clouds, gave us all that cold weather yesterday, well, it pushed off to the southeast. But here's our defining factor. See that low pressure up there? Usually that could result in some rain, some thunderstorm activity. That thing's going to stall out about right here all week long. It's going to be absolutely delightful. So for the bus stop forecast, Orville sunrise over Joplin at 6:45. Call it sunny and warming quickly, already up into the mid-50s by the time we get to the first recess, as the jet stream with all the cold Canadian air has now really moved on the other side of the Mississippi. So we'll be able to make it up into the 70s, not only for this election Tuesday, but let's call it all week long. Now, I do want to point out the fact that that southwest wind, similar to yesterday, going to gust at about 25 miles per hour. So limited fire risk. Do want to encourage no outdoor burning. Let's all be on the safe side because our humidity is going to be very, very low. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. Businesses, retailers, and government offices across the country are boarding up their doors and windows in anticipation of rioting and unrest after Election Day. In fact, some communities, they're getting a taste of what could happen. Deborah Alfarone has the story.
Demonstrators who'd gathered to protest a Make America Great car rally scuffled with police in New York City. The caravan of President Trump supporters didn't make it there, but instead blocked a bridge and a major highway outside the city. In Houston, protesters gathered outside the courthouse where a federal judge dismissed a Republican challenge to 127,000 drive-through ballots. While the GOP argued drive-through voting is illegal, the judge ruled the GOP didn't have standing in the case.
People are rising right now because they don't like it when people try to take away their votes.
And voters in Graham, North Carolina, who were pepper sprayed by police after marching to the polls over the weekend, say they will be back tomorrow. Across the country, federal, state, and local officials are preparing for potential unrest on and after Election Day.
The Chicago Police Department will increase its patrol.
I have also directed General Stencil to call up our National Guard should their services be deemed necessary.
We do have assets in place if things do go to the side of civil unrest.
Many retailers and property owners are installing plywood on doors and windows of businesses from New York City to Southern California. Here in Washington, D.C., many businesses near the White House and the Capitol have already boarded up, and D.C. police say that they're going to have every police officer working on Election Day. Workers installed steel fencing around the White House in the event of protests. And starting tonight, Beverly Hills will close Rodeo Drive to cars and pedestrians.
Kind of a shame to see this need to happen the day before what should be a democratic process.
Over the weekend, roughly 4,000 people gathered there to support President Trump and appeared to clash with counter-protesters. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Washington.
George Washington University, that's in D.C., told its students to stockpile a week's worth of food and medicine in case they cannot leave their dorms or apartments following the election. Our question for you on Facebook and the Insta poll: are you worried about civil unrest after today? You can go to KOAMNewsNow.com/vote. Let us know what you think. We'll roll your comments and your results. Health Watch is next.
Topping Health Watch this morning, a 13-year-old boy in Washington, Missouri died over the weekend from the coronavirus. His heartbroken mother says he didn't have any known pre-existing conditions. She tells Justina Carolla she wants to use her story to warn others to take the coronavirus seriously.
Right now, I just feel completely and utterly broken and numb, and I would do anything to trade places with him.
Funny, sweet, kind, and known as her little buddy. That's what Stephanie Franek says about her 13-year-old son, Payne Bumgarth, an 8th grader at Washington Middle.
We had so much fun. We laughed a lot.
Franek says now she has to do the one thing no parent should have to do: bury her son. Bumgarth passed away due to COVID-19 complications this weekend. The Franklin County teen is the youngest person in the state of Missouri to die from the virus.
I don't even know how to take a breath, let alone get through the next days and weeks and months and years without him.
Just 2 weeks ago, Bumgarth was actually in class. His last day was October 22nd. He then quarantined that Monday on October 26th. His mom says she tested positive on the 26th with mild symptoms. Bumgarth was presumed positive.
He just wasn't getting better, and his condition was getting much worse.
He then went to the hospital on Thursday, and 2 days later, Bumgarth passed away.
There's no reason why he shouldn't be here and I shouldn't, if that's what... I don't know why it affected him so much worse.
Mom says it's hard to understand how this happened since her son has no underlying medical conditions. But what she does know is her message to the world is loud and clear.
Wear a mask when you're in public. Wash your hands. And know that COVID is real.
And she hopes her son can be a reminder for you that life is precious.
Hug the people that you love. Hug them tight. Tell them you love them. Spend as much time as you can with your loved ones, because you never know when it's going to be the last.
Bumgarth's classmates will return to in-person learning on Wednesday. The school says it will have counselors on hand for them. Sleep deprivation may lead to cocaine addiction. European researchers found sleep-deprived mice developed a preference for cocaine faster than mice that were well rested. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
That's what you're going to pitch it to me on.
Yeah, why are we giving these mice cocaine?
That's what you're going to pitch it to me on.
Sorry.
Got it. Sunny and 70s on election day. That's what I got, folks. Back right after this.
It's election day in the 4 states. We'll tell you what you need to know before heading to the polls. Plus, why some early voters in Jasper County experienced long lines, and how an area political party addressed issues about complying with sign ordinances.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, something to talk about this morning is about election unrest. Let us know if you're worried riots will break out on or after election night. You can also participate in this morning's Instapoll. Just visit KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
We're going to start off each and every block with a shot of Old Glory on this election day and what's going to be a marvelous looking Tuesday. Should not prohibit any attempts to vote across the entire nation. It's so calm and warming. 51 degrees is where we stand at the Freeman Health System Sky Camera. And we've got 47 in Pittsburgh. We've got 44 in Monette, 43 in Iola. This is coming off freeze warnings that we had on Monday, but we've been able to dispatch those as the jet stream and the cold air has now moved on the other side of the Mississippi River. For the bus stop forecast, as they head to school, we'll go sunrise at 6:45 over Joplin. We'll still have that southwest breeze of 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting up to 25. And so once again, it's going to be a good day to avoid outdoor burning just because our humidity is going to drop so low. But those panels right there tell the entire story. Just sunshine throughout. And Future Track, even as we work into Wednesday, we're going to be able to ride mild morning temperatures in 70s all the way into the weekend. Now, eventually, we're going to need to pick up some rain. And that'll finally emerge on Sunday into Monday. But you'll also notice, I found it curious, Sunday into Monday, usually we get thunderstorm activity this time of year. You'd expect a cold front on the backside of it. As a matter of fact, we're actually going to warm up when the front arrives. Gulf moisture, not coming in from the northwest, going to come in from southeast.
There you go. It's going to be a beautiful week.
It's going to be gorgeous. Like I say, by the time we get to Sunday and Monday, it's going to be about time for some rain.
That's for sure.
We're going to be needing some by then.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Well, Election Day 2020 has finally arrived. As is tradition, the first Election Day ballots were cast just after midnight in the New Hampshire town of Dixville Notch. Over 97 million Americans voted prior to today, and that's a record for early voting. And it's almost 2/3 of the total number of ballots cast in 2016. If you're planning to cast your vote today, poll hours vary from state to state. In Missouri, it opens in about 30 minutes at 6 a.m. and closes at 7 p.m. As long as you're in line by 7, you can still vote. For Kansas and Oklahoma, polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And in Arkansas, you can vote from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And there'll be a lot of candidates down on the ballot this year, from the sheriff to the governor to the senator. And there's too many to list all at once, so let's take a look at some of the key races that you'll want to watch heading into today. We're going to start in Kansas with the race that's gotten the most national attention. That's the race for U.S. Senate between Democrat Barbara Bollier and Republican Congressman Roger Marshall. What's made the race eye-opening is how close it is and the staggering amount of money spent so far. Barbara Bollier set state fundraising records, raising more than $24 million, and that's compared to Roger Marshall, who raised nearly $6 million. The polls have ranged from leaning Republican to a toss-up. The most recent one by Data for Progress shows Marshall leading by 6 points, and it's important to remember that Kansas hasn't elected a Democrat to the Senate since 1932. Sticking with Kansas, another race to keep an eye on is the U.S. House 2nd District. Republican Kansas Secretary of State Jake LaTurner is taking on Democratic Topeka Mayor Michelle De La Isla. LaTurner, a Galena, Kansas native, unseated the incumbent Congressman Steve Watkins in the primary. According to the latest poll conducted in early October, LaTurner is leading De La Isla by as much as 11 points. Across the border, Missourians will decide on who they want for governor, the incumbent Republican Mike Parson or the Democratic state auditor Nicole Galloway. This one has tightened up in recent months. Back in August, Governor Parson led by 15 points in one poll, but now the latest poll released on Saturday is showing just a 6-point lead. If he wins, it would be the governor's first time being elected to the position. Parson replaced Eric Greitens following his resignation in 2018. And finally, in Missouri, Amendment number 3. A vote yes amends the Missouri Constitution to ban lobbyist gifts, reduce campaign contribution limits, and change the redistricting process approved by voters in 2018. The responsibility to draw legislative districts would instead go from nonpartisan state demographer to governor-appointed bipartisan commissions. Proponents see it as a way to keep representation local, while opponents see it as undoing the voter-approved Clean Missouri initiative. There's a lot more races to keep an eye on, especially at the local level. For what you can expect to see on your ballot, you can go to our elections page on our website. And of course, we'll have the latest results as they come in tonight on the KOAM News at 9 and 10. And then a recap of election night tomorrow right here on the KOAM Morning News. Well, some Jasper County voters ran into long lines on the last day of early voting yesterday. The doors closed at 5 p.m., but during the day, people were voting at both the Jasper County Courthouse in Carthage and at the Joplin location. But due to a trial taking place on the same floor as voting in Joplin, some people had to wait for up to an hour to get in and vote, as space was limited to nearly standing room only. Because of that trial, we weren't allowed to shoot video inside the Joplin Courthouse. But in Carthage, wait times were a bit shorter, averaging around 30 to 40 minutes. Jasper County, Missouri Republicans organization says some of their political signs have been taken down by the city of Joplin for violating the city sign ordinance. KOAM's Caitlin Shives spoke with their chairman on how the organization found its own way to comply with the ordinance.
The Jasper County Republicans organizations say they have been getting complaints from citizens alleging the city removed their political signs because they don't follow size requirements.
It has to be 15 foot from the road, which we are. A lot of people don't think we are, but we actually measure that off from there, and that it can't exceed 8 square foot, which is basically a 2 foot by 4 foot sign.
The City of Joplin's ordinance states that political signs can't exceed 8 square feet in area and no more than 5 feet in height while being 15 feet away from the curb. Some of the Republican Party signs did exceed those size limits, so Chairman Alan Griffin released a video showing their adjustments of cutting the 4x8 signs into 4 2x4 parts.
We should cover ourselves if I'm not wrong. If I am, let me know.
I was kind of being a wise guy, I guess. It's like we don't have one sign, we don't have 2 signs, we got 16 signs. So yeah, I mean, I even did a hashtag City of Joplin. I mean, I will be willing to work with them, but there's always, and in fact, I even contacted an attorney before I did that, just say, hey, will we be compliant? And it's like, yeah, as long as you do it that way and you're 15 foot back, I don't think it'll be a problem.
The video came with its share of complaints, including those from the Southwest Missouri Democrats.
We feel like that's a bit of a strange response. If you're trying to follow the laws and ordinances of a community, then you need to follow the spirit of the laws and ordinances of the community.
Stark added that their biggest concern is accusations against their organization in relation to the cut signs.
Now that they've cut those signs, there are some of them that are not holding up super well, and so I'm getting complaints and people sending things to me saying, you know, you guys are vandalizing the Republican signs. We did not cut those signs. We did not remove them. The City of Joplin removed them because they did not meet with the ordinance.
The Republican organization does plan on going to the city to try and change the ordinance requirements for the next election year.
People are going to complain no matter what, but I'd like to see it change to where we can be compliant.
In Joplin, Caitlin Shive, KOAM News.
The city spokesperson says the city has taken down signs that did not follow the ordinance, and it is not unusual as it happens during most election years. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. Jesse tells us why we may not know the results of election night.
Well, with a record number of mail-in ballots, some states could take longer than election night to count all of them. We'll have what to expect on election night tonight, coming up.
Plus, the Vatican clarifies Pope Francis's position on same-sex unions. But first, it's 5:37.
An election Tuesday with sunshine and temps in the 70s. An absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous day to get out and vote. And your comments from the news Insta poll and Facebook page. World Watch is next.
Topping World Watch, multiple gunmen opened fire on the streets of Vienna, leaving at least 15 people injured and at least 4 dead. One of the attackers is dead and the other assailants is still on the run. Now, this terror attack came just hours before the country was going on lockdown because of spiking coronavirus cases. Benjamin Hall has the details.
Police investigating a deadly attack in Vienna, Austria, Monday night, which officials are calling a terror attack.
They were shooting at least 100 rounds just in front of our building.
Police say around 8 p.m. local time, multiple gunmen opened fire in the Austrian capital in at least 6 different locations, all near the city's main synagogue. But it is unclear whether the house of worship, which was closed at the time, was a direct target. Several people were injured by gunfire, including a police officer, and at least one of the gunmen was killed during the initial incident. The area was busy at the time of the attack, as the country was preparing for a month-long lockdown beginning at midnight Monday night.
I saw the attacker running into various bars and restaurants which are lined up on our street, and people running away, and this 1 or 2 attackers chasing them all over the street. And people were sitting outside and he was shooting at the people.
World leaders immediately responding to the attack, including British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and French President Emmanuel Macron, who tweeted, "The French share the shock and grief of the Austrian people." In recent weeks, France has experienced 3 attacks blamed on Muslim extremists.
As the investigation continues, the Army is now guarding key locations across the city, allowing police to locate the assailants. An attack at Kabul University in Afghanistan kills at least 19 people and wounds 22 more. A government official says 3 attackers were involved. One of them detonated an explosive device. The other 2 were killed by security forces after hours of fighting. The European Union condemned the attack as an atrocious breach of humanitarian law. So far, no group has claimed responsibility. Vatican clarifies Pope Francis's comments on legalizing same-sex civil unions. In a letter, the Vatican says that two comments made by Pope Francis in the film Francesco were taken out of context. It also did not signal any change in the Catholic doctrine. The Vatican explained that Pope Francis answered 2 different questions at 2 different times during the production of the documentary. According to the letter, the answers were edited and published as a single response without the proper context, which has led to confusion. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Yeah, Tanya, I was reading about the Austria shooting right here. The entire city of Vienna on lockdown right now. KOAM News Now Facebook page and our Insta poll this morning asking how you feel about what's going to happen about civil unrest after Election Day. And we'll begin our comments with Rick Norton, club member. Rick says, "We should all be worried, but remember God is in control and his will be done. Have faith, friends. It is time to stop the hate and destruction of our great nation." Dave Sorick says, "Been a year like none other. Does remind me of 1968. Pray for peace. May God bless America." Luke Nading, all I can say is I will live or die. That is true. And Andrea Spivey says, "Not worried about it around here." She says, "Don't care about other places." Now, as far as our Insta poll goes, you go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. And our question, are you worried there could be civil unrest after the election? Right now, 80% of the respondents, 77% of the respondents, that's a great thing about our technology, it updates just like that. 77% say that you are worried. We'll continue to roll this throughout the course of the show. Come back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Election Day 2020 has finally arrived. As is tradition, the first Election Day ballots were cast just after midnight in the New Hampshire town of Dixville Notch. Over 97 million Americans voted prior to today. That's a record for early voting, and it's almost 2/3 of the total number of ballots cast in 2016. Well, if you're planning on casting your vote today, poll hours vary from state to state. In Missouri, it opens soon at 6 a.m. and closes at 7 p.m. As long as you're in line by 7, you can still vote. For Kansas and Oklahoma, polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And in Arkansas, you can vote from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Well, some Jasper County voters ran into long lines on this last day of early voting. The doors closed at 5 p.m. During the day, people were voting at both the Jasper County Courthouse, in Carthage, and at the Joplin location. Due to a trial taking place on the same floor as voting in Joplin, some people had to wait for up to an hour to get in and vote. The space was limited to nearly standing room only. 3 former nursing instructors filed a lawsuit against Missouri Southern's Board of Governors alleging whistleblower retaliation and breach of contract. MSSU's nursing program came under scrutiny back in May after the state board received an anonymous tip about violations of state regulations. Professors Sarah Staples, Peyton Kessler, and Coetta Ogle reported problems during a faculty accreditation meeting in March, bringing up concerns about being understaffed and overworked. They and another person suspected of providing the tip to the state board were fired. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
We're talking about a 25-degree difference between this morning and where we were yesterday. Remember those freeze warnings? That's a thing of the distant past. We're going to warm up into the 70s today with plenty of sunshine and let that warming trend just continue all the way into the weekend. Next shot for rain, that comes from Sunday into Monday. Of course, you can always find the latest on the Skywatch weather app. KOAM News Now Facebook page this morning and our morning Insta poll asking, are you worried there could be civil unrest after the election? We'll pick our comments back up with Andrea Spivey, who said not around here. Lyle Baldwin says it's going to be ugly no matter how it goes. Michelle Passini says absolutely she's worried for the people and businesses in bigger cities, specifically when they fan the flames of hate and wrongdoing, when they don't get their way, trying to instill fear in everyone. I keep rolling. Charlie Brim's got a couple of pictures for you. Matt LaFata says doesn't make a difference. Law enforcement at the lowest to the highest level won't do anything about it, so does it really matter, Matt asks, as long as they don't come riot at my house? And Rocky Cunningham says businesses don't just spend money on material and labor to board up their windows. Brett Devine says first it was peaceful protests, now demonstrations. And as far as our Insta poll goes for this morning, right now 78% saying that they are worried about civil unrest after the election. Now, the coronavirus pandemic has changed obviously a whole lot in the past year. Elections no exception. Our own Jesse Irwin joins us live outside a polling area in Pittsburgh to tell us why we may need to be more patient with results this time. Jesse?
Well, Michael, now that it's election day, experts are saying that the country should be prepared to not know the results of the presidential race or other races by the end of the night. And so Chris Martinez shows us why people should be ready to wait a little bit longer than this evening.
As voters head to the polls today, it's becoming more and more uncertain if the country will have a projected winner of the presidency on November 3rd.
If the margin is close, like in any race, to get to a final tally, it always takes time.
UCLA political science assistant professor Dan Thompson says a record surge of mail-in votes triggered by the coronavirus pandemic could leave some states needing more time to count their ballots. The rules for processing and counting mail-in votes vary from state to state, and most begin processing those ballots before Election Day. But when it comes to actually counting the ballots, at least 30 states legally can't begin until Election Day. That includes Pennsylvania, where a handful of counties won't begin counting until November 4th.
Election administrators have been focused on this issue for many, many months. And I think by and large, they've been preparing for exactly these types of concerns.
In some states, mail-in ballots arriving after Election Day could also delay the final results. The question of how late those ballots will be accepted has prompted a number of legal challenges this year. Just last week, the Supreme Court said absentee ballots in North Carolina can arrive up to 9 days after November 3rd. This after the High Court decided ballots won't be accepted in Wisconsin if they arrive after the polls close on Election Day. Those outcomes are part of a record-setting number of election-related lawsuits this year, with more than 300 filed in 46 states. And experts believe we'll likely see more legal challenges once the vote tally begins. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And again, we'll be tracking all the election results on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. And we'll continue to be live from here this morning. And of course, we'll continue to have coverage for you all throughout the day.
All right, Jesse, appreciate that. And we'll check back in with you in just a little bit. Come back, update Skywatch Storm Tracker, talk a little 7-day forecast right after this. Fresh air forecast bringing us 70 degrees, sunshine, and a good southwest wind for this election Tuesday. Going to be absolutely gorgeous outside as our above normal temperatures continue all the way into the weekend. Next shot for rain not until Sunday and Monday. Be back right after this.
It's Election Day in the 4 states. We'll tell you what you need to know before heading to the polls. Plus, why some early voters in Jasper County experienced long lines, and how an area political party addressed issues about complying with sign ordinances.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, we're going to hear from local election officials on what you can expect when you cast your vote today. And authorities say there will be unrest no matter who wins the election. For something to talk about, we're asking whether or not you're worried about post-election unrest. Be sure to participate in our Insta poll at KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
I don't think there has to be, does there?
There shouldn't be.
Right.
It's unnecessary.
No, that's what I'm saying.
It doesn't solve anything.
I was about to say, let's all act like adults. Look at this gorgeous shot. You can't beat that on Election Tuesday, can you? That was absolutely gorgeous right there. That's outside the mothership. I'll come back, get to the Freeman Health System sky camera here in a second. I was reading comments. 51 in Joplin, 46 in Parsons, 45 in Nevada. Far cry from the freeze warnings that we had on Monday, and Skywatch Storm Tracker just clears the bell. It's going to be absolutely delightful. And that high pressure, well, it's still lingering just to the east of us. But as you can tell by the jet stream, look, the colder air is now moved to the northeast of us. And so we've got a great chance to warm up. We'll go sunrise over Joplin at 6:45, and we're going to warm up quite quickly, all the way into the mid-50s by 9 o'clock. And so we're talking high 60s, low 70s around the noon hour as far as what Future Track has. If you're going to go vote today, you've got absolutely no worries about anything. It's going to be delightful all the way through Wednesday, and why stop there? Let's go ahead and throw 70s on the board all the way into the weekend. Now, by the time we get to Sunday, we're going to need some rain, and so that's what we'll do. Roll rain from Sunday into Monday.
All right, we'll be ready for it.
Yeah, by that point in time, we will.
In the meantime, enjoy
But delightful week.
that weather
Delightful week ahead.
All right, thanks, Michael. Well, a long and grueling campaign reaches its climax today, but maybe not its end. While millions of voters have already cast a ballot for either President Trump or former Vice President Joe Biden, millions more will head to the polls today. And it's unclear if we'll know the winner tonight, as some states could take days to count all the ballots. Skylar Henry is outside a polling location in Alexandria, Virginia.
President Trump and Joe Biden each visited cities with historical significance yesterday.
We can be a little bit superstitious.
The president held a midnight rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, just as he did before his 2016 victory.
Tomorrow we're going to make history once again.
The former vice president was in Pittsburgh, where he kicked off his campaign in 2019.
Because you represent the backbone of this country. Hard-working families. We're asking nothing but a fair shot.
Throughout the day, both candidates urged Americans to vote.
Get your family, get your neighbors, get your co-workers, get your boss, grab him by the tie, say, let's go, boss. I believe the message is going to be loud and clear. It's time for Donald Trump
to pack his bags and go home.
Voting during the coronavirus pandemic has reshaped the election process. At least 98 million ballots have already been cast. That's more than double the early vote in 2016. 5 voters in Dixville Notch, New Hampshire kept their midnight tradition alive, casting the first in-person votes on Election Day.
5 votes for Joe Biden.
In some states, it may take days to count all the votes, so legal experts are urging patience.
What would actually be a failure would be if we failed to count legitimately cast ballots simply because of some arbitrary cutoff.
President Trump plans to spend tonight at the White House, while Biden has 2 more events in Pennsylvania today. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Alexandria, Virginia.
Vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris will campaign in Detroit today before meeting up with Biden in Williamton, Delaware, to watch the returns come in. Vice President Pence returns to Washington. Well, if you're planning on casting your vote today, poll hours vary from state to state. In Missouri, the polls are open right now and will close at 7 p.m. As long as you're in line by 7 tonight, you can still vote. For Kansas and Oklahoma, polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And in Arkansas, you can vote from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. As we head into Election Day, there's a chance many won't be able to go to the polls because of COVID isolation or quarantine orders. But they still have options. Our own Jesse Irwin joins us from the polls in Pittsburgh to break them down. And Jesse, explain this to us.
Well, Tanya, let's play out this totally possible hypothetical because, I mean, there's a chance that Americans are waking up this morning and maybe they have a cough. Maybe over the last few days they've found themselves in quarantine or, God forbid, they've been hospitalized, right? So what do? Well, let's go through this state by state. So here in Kansas specifically, voters can use sick and disabled assisted voting. That allows a friend or family member to bring a sick or quarantined voter a ballot and then take it back to the election office for them. Right? Now, sick or quarantined voters in Oklahoma can submit an incapacitated absentee ballot application. That permits a friend or family member to take the ballot to and from the election office for them. The application has to include a sworn statement from a physician. And then last but not least, in the Show Me state, in Missouri, voters can cast their ballots curbside, or if they can't leave their home, they can request a ballot be delivered to them by their county clerk's office, but that depends on how many resources each clerk's office has. So the best way to find out that information, give them a call. Call your local election office, call your Secretary of State. We've got a lot of information on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com, and we'll continue to bring you coverage and resources and information throughout the morning and all throughout Election Day.
Well, thank you, Jesse. We'll be checking back in with you very soon. Well, some Jasper County voters ran into long lines on the last day of early voting. The doors closed at 5 p.m. yesterday. During the day, people were voting at both the Jasper County Courthouse in Carthage and at the Joplin location. And due to a trial taking place on the same floor as voting in Joplin, some people had to wait for up to an hour to get in and vote, as space was limited to nearly standing room only. And because of that trial, we weren't allowed to shoot video inside the Joplin Courthouse, so we can't show you those lines. In Carthage, wait times were a bit shorter, averaging around 30 to 40 minutes. Remember, when you go to vote today, leave your campaign apparel at home. Candidate hats, buttons, pins, and other material are not allowed near polling places, though the distances vary. In Kansas, it's 250 feet from the entrance. In Missouri, it's 25 feet from the building's outer door. And in Oklahoma, it's 300 feet from the ballot box. There are concerns some Republican Party signs in Joplin do not comply with the city's sign ordinance. The Jasper County Republicans organization says they've been getting complaints from citizens alleging their city removed their political signs because they do not follow size requirements. The city of Joplin's ordinance states that political signs cannot exceed 8 square feet in area and no more than 5 feet in height, while being 15 feet away from the curb. The Republican organization found its own way to comply with the ordinance. They posted a video on Facebook showing how they cut each sign into 4 2x4 pieces. Well, Joplin City Council met again last night. On the agenda, pay raises for some council members. The council voted to pass a 9% wage increase for the city attorney, city clerk, municipal judge, and public defender as council employees. That increase goes into effect retroactively starting Sunday. Officials say this increase was discussed because a wage increase adopted in 2018 for other city employees will adjust their wages by 9% next fiscal year. 6:07.
Sunrise 6:45 over Joplin, and I tell you what, once the sun takes effect, it's going to warm up. It's going to warm up fast, thanks in part to not only the sunshine, but also a good southwest breeze. Let's try to avoid outdoor burning because our humidity is going to drop extremely low once again, and that'll be the theme for the week. Breezy, dry, warm, but a great looking election Tuesday as temps roll the 70s into the weekend.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Jesse tells us what to expect when you go to vote.
Well, here in the 4 states and around the country, people are showing up to the polls. We have a conversation with the Crawford County Clerk about what he expects in this coming election.
Plus, why health officials say we may not see a decline in coronavirus cases anytime soon, and how businesses are pushing consumers to get a jump start on their holiday shopping. You're watching the KOAM Morning News, more real news in the morning. We'll be right back. In Money Watch this morning, Wall Street rallied to start the week. The Dow gained 423 points. The Nasdaq was up 46. S&P 500 added 40. All eyes are on today's elections. Polls show former Vice President Joe Biden with the lead over President Trump, both nationally and in many key swing states. Investors are also watching the Senate to see if it will remain in the hands of the Republicans or if a blue wave hands power to the Democrats. Holiday shopping season is one of the most important times of the year for retailers. With the COVID-19 pandemic, this year's shopping season will look a little different. Mandy Gaither tells us why there's a push for you to shop early this year.
From small shops to big stores, retailers are getting ready for the holiday shopping season.
They've been preparing for this holiday season, I believe, since the time they realized this was not going to be a normal year.
The National Retail Federation is urging Americans to shop safe, early, and often.
These retailers, and especially these small local retailers on main streets across America, are really needing your help right now. So getting out there, buying now, getting that checklist done, you don't have to worry about that later on.
According to their annual survey, the NRF is expecting consumers to spend slightly less on gifts than last year, but shell out a little more for decorations for a total just under $1,000.
The inventory is there. They are offering the discounts and the prices that people want to pay. And our research has shown that people will shop early.
Recent retail sales have made the NRF hopeful that it will be a strong holiday shopping season.
People want the shopping experience. They have been forced to basically stay home. They want to get out and enjoy and partake in something they've known all of their lives.
For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Mandy Gaither.
NRF is expecting online sales to be higher this year. That's it for Money Watch. Here's Michael with something to talk about.
Thank you, Tanya. KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll asking if you're concerned about civil unrest after Election Day. And we'll resume our comments with Sandra Jo Taylor-Minich, who says, well, first I read communists across the country, demonstrations, riots, had to go back and start over. And Jelena Howell says civil unrest, civil disorder, civil disobedience. All the same, and there are not demonstrations. They are exactly what it says. Unrest, disorder, and disobedience are not civil. And Mona Barker says the only people who will riot, baboons with their flags, riot gear, and guns when Trump loses. It's going to be scary is called following. Step away from the Kool-Aid, Mona asks. And Jared Channel says, worried, yes and no. Not worried about the election because God's in charge no matter what happens. Worried because I drive through big cities where demonstrations, as you media calls them. Yes, because I have a family to return home to. And Jared, we want you to make sure you're safe out there, my man. KOAM Insta poll this morning. You worried about civil unrest after the election? Right now, 79% saying yes. You are worried about civil unrest after tonight. You go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Be back right after this. Going to be a great looking election Tuesday. Live shot from the mothership here at Television City. Old Glory there blowing, and just a beautiful, beautiful blue sky with the sun beginning to rise over the horizon. From the Freeman Health System Sky Camera, what a difference from yesterday, where we had freeze warnings down in the southern portion of the 4 states. About a 25 to 30 degree difference as we sit at 51 right now in Joplin. Yeah, it's still cool in Miami and Grove where it's mid-30s, but like I said, we're not nobody even close to the freezing point right now. 45 in Nevada, 45 in Monette, and let's roll 46 in Parsons once again. The high pressure giving us a beautiful, clean Skywatch storm tracker. As a matter of fact, on this election Tuesday, Mother Nature really shouldn't play too much of a role as far as people being able to get out to the polls. We do see a little precipitation, the wintry variety, up in the far northeastern section of the contiguous 48. They're used to that. They know how to deal with it. And you get on the other side of the Mississippi, look at how dry this is. Yeah, I know they need a little moisture. It wouldn't be bad if we got a little moisture. But fact of the matter is, the weather will not prohibit anybody from getting their civic duty done and getting out to vote today. The bus stop forecast as the kids head to school. Sunrise officially at 6:45, so well, we're about 25 minutes away from that, and the weather trend has us pushing up into the 70s here later on today, and that's what we'll be able to roll the entire week. 70s, yet dry and breezy, so let's avoid any outdoor burning. Now, going to be a lot of candidates on the ballot this year, whether you're talking about sheriff, whether you're talking about governor, whether you're talking about United States Senator. And our own Jesse Irwin joins us from a polling location in Pittsburgh to tell us about some of the biggest races in the 4 states. Jesse?
Yeah, well, Michael, we're here in Pittsburgh, and people are already pulling up, getting ready to line up to go vote because today is election day. And there are a lot of different races happening, not just a presidential race, but races on the local level, the state level, the national level. I want to break down some of these more local races for you. So let's start out here in Kansas with the race that's gotten the most national attention, and that's the race for U.S. Senate between Democrat Barbara Bollier and Republican Congressman Roger Marshall. What's made this race eye-opening is how close it is and the staggering amount of money spent. Barbara Bollier set state fundraising records, raising more than $24 million. That's compared to Roger Marshall raising nearly $6 million. The polls have ranged from leaning Republican to a toss-up. The most recent one by data is for Progress. It shows that Marshall's leading by 6 points, and it's important to remember that Kansas hasn't elected a Democrat to the United States Senate since 1932. Now let's stick with Kansas here. Another race to keep an eye on is in the U.S. House 2nd District. Republican Kansas Secretary of State Jake LaTurner is taking on Democratic Topeka Mayor Michelle De La Isla. Now, LaTurner, a Galena, Kansas native, unseated the incumbent Congressman Steve Watkins. According to the latest poll conducted in early October, LaTurner is leading De La Isla by as much as 11 points. Now, across the border, let's look at Missouri. Missouri will decide on who they want for governor. That incumbent Republican Mike Parson or the Democratic state auditor Nicole Galloway. Now this one's tightened up in recent months. Back in August, Governor Parson led by 15 points in one poll, but now the latest poll released on Saturday is just showing a 6-point lead. If he wins, it would be the governor's first being reelected to the position. Now Parson replaced Eric Greitens following his resignation in 2018. And let's look finally in Missouri. We're looking at Amendment 3. A vote yes amends the Missouri Constitution to ban lobbyists' gifts, reduce campaign contribution limits, and change the redistricting process approved by voters in 2018. The responsibility to draw legislative districts would instead go from nonpartisan state demographer to governor-appointed bipartisan commissions. Now, proponents see it as a way to keep representation local, while opponents see it as undoing the voter-approved Clean Missouri initiative. Now, there's a lot of different votes here. I've got pages worth of them, but ultimately, there's a lot of different races to keep your eye on. You can head to our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. We've got all the different elections, what your ballot's going to look like, and a lot more resources on what you need to be able to vote if you haven't done so, and what to expect for tonight.
All right, Jesse, greatly appreciate it. We'll catch back up with you in just a bit. Come back, do Health Watch next.
Thanks, Michael.
Topping Health Watch this morning, Election Day 2020 is finally here, and voters are deciding who will lead the country as it battles the coronavirus pandemic. John Lawrence reports.
While some Americans have COVID fatigue, the feeling isn't mutual.
The virus doesn't get tired. it just keeps on going. It's looking for new opportunities.
The U.S. is averaging more than 80,000 new cases per day, according to Johns Hopkins University.
700 deaths from COVID-19 per million people. In Vietnam, that number is nowhere near 700. It's 0.36. In South Korea, it's nine deaths per million people.
14 states, including Alaska, Iowa, North Dakota, West Virginia, and Wyoming, had record-setting hospitalizations last week. Some medical experts warn if this upward trend doesn't reverse soon, mandatory lockdowns may become necessary.
We're already running short of many critical medications, and we're also going to run out of healthcare workers, which means that patient care is going to suffer, and we will be at breaking point in our hospitals.
Health officials say COVID-19 isn't going away regardless of who wins the 2020 presidential election, and that individuals can play a big role in fighting the pandemic.
There's an easy way to turn this around, and then there's a really hard way to turn this around. The easy way to turn this around is for everyone to wear a mask. The hard way to turn this around is to start shutting down our economy again.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
More than 61,000 children in the U.S. tested positive for COVID-19 during the week that ended October 29th. That's according to a report from the American Academy of Pediatrics. It says that was the biggest increase in children's cases since the start of the pandemic. A new study finds 17% of U.S. adults used a special diet over a 3-year period. The most common special diet was a weight loss or low-calorie diet. The National Health and Nutrition Survey also found about half of adults have diet-related chronic issues such as cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, or type 2 diabetes. Well, foods linked to inflammation in the body can also raise the risk of heart disease or stroke, and that includes red meat, fried foods, and sugary beverages. The American College of Cardiology suggests consuming foods with higher levels of antioxidants, such as leafy green vegetables and whole grains, to combat inflammation. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
A good salad right now after that story. That sounds really good. Highs in the 70s, sunny skies, southwest wind. Avoid outdoor burning. We'll be back right after this.
It's Election Day in the 4 states. We'll tell you what you need to know before heading to the polls. Plus, why some early voters in Jasper County experienced long lines, and how an area political party addressed issues about complying with sign ordinances.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, candidates make one final push for votes as we head into Election Day. Something to talk about on the KOAM News Now Facebook page. We're asking whether or not you're worried about post-election unrest. You can vote in our Instapoll. Just visit KOAMNewsNow.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
And let's take a live look outside of Television City with Old Glory blowing and indicating a strong south to southwest breeze for our Tuesday election morning from the Freeman Health System Sky Camera. 51 degrees. What a change in temperatures from yesterday where we had those freeze warnings. And while we still hang on to the mid-30s down in the south of Miami and Grove, everybody else 40s, if not 50, already in Carthage as well. A clean Skywatch storm tracker as the colder air from the jet stream now pushes on the eastern side of the Mississippi, meaning no worries for the kiddos. Don't have to tell them to bundle up and grab that hat. It's already going to be close to 60 degrees by the time recess rolls around. Weather trend for today, all the way up into the 70s. It's going to be very, very dry once again. But for those of you that are going to be standing in line to vote, hey, you don't have a worry in the world as far as Mother Nature goes. As a matter of fact, even as we work into Wednesday, very mild to open up the day and back into the 70s. That's where we'll be all week long. Gonna need some rain eventually, and it'll get here come Sunday into Monday.
All right.
Going to stay about 5 to 7 degrees above normal all week long.
I'm liking these temperatures. I'm not complaining. I think it's great.
Well,
it's
twofold. You know, I've been reiterating that don't burn anything outside because it's very, very dry. But at the same point in time, it does make it absolutely delightful for the afternoon and evenings to sit outside for a little bit.
That's true. It is.
You know, we're not talking about sticky, muggy, you know, late, like fall-like heat.
It's pretty
perfect.
Nice. All right. Thanks, Michael. Well, Election Day 2020 has finally arrived. As is tradition, the first Election Day ballots were cast just after midnight in the New Hampshire town of Dixville Notch. Over 97 million Americans voted prior to today, and that's a record for early voting. And it's almost 2/3 of the total number of ballots cast in 2016. Well, if you're planning to cast your vote today, poll hours vary from state to state. In Missouri, it opens in about 30 minutes at 6 a.m. and it closes, actually, they're already open. It closes at 7 p.m. As long as you're in line by 7, you can still vote. And for Kansas and Oklahoma, polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's in about 30 minutes. In Arkansas, you can vote from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Well, yesterday was the last day for early voting in Missouri, and voters were faced with long lines and packed courthouses. KOAM's Chris Warner spoke with voters on what they faced casting their ballots.
Both Jasper County Courthouse locations in Carthage and Joplin were open until 5 Monday, taking the final in-person absentee voters, like Brian Evans, who arrived around 11 a.m., but was told there may be up to an hour wait.
I knew there'd be a wait. I wasn't sure if it would be that long. I thought it might be 10, 15 minutes, but it was a little longer than I thought, but not as long as they thought, so.
Evans says his wait was about 45 minutes. Cameron Montoya also came out to cast her absentee ballot, but the lines were longer by the time she arrived at the courthouse in Joplin.
It was super long at first. There was a lot of us crowded in one room, but it started to weed out as we got up to the polling area.
But there was another issue she noticed.
I would say we weren't socially distanced. I was sitting like shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of people.
And that concern is what kept Shannon Engel from voting absentee Monday.
And I get it. Everybody's trying to get it done so they don't have to do it tomorrow. But for me, I have a bad immune system, so I was trying to avoid crowds, and I went in there and it was not what I expected.
Jasper County Clerk Charlie Davis says that's because a felony court hearing was taking place on the same floor.
You know, it's an unfortunate circumstance. You know, I apologize to the public. It was nothing that we even knew about, that they were even having any courts on the second floor.
Because of that hearing, we were not allowed to film inside the Joplin Courthouse location. However, Davis has advice just ahead of the Tuesday polls opening.
You know, if everybody wears gloves, wears masks, you know, wear your protective stuff, then that's why you wear it, to protect yourself, etc. So if everybody's doing that, then we're going to be okay.
In Joplin and Carthage, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
Last week, we spoke with Charlie Davis. He told us absentee ballots had broken the 2016 record as they had just over 8,000. Yesterday, Davis told us they had well over 12,000 ballots. Wow. Well, there are concerns some Republican Party signs in Joplin do not comply with the city sign ordinance. And the Jasper County Republicans organization says they've been getting complaints from citizens alleging the city removed their political signs because they don't follow size requirements. City of Joplin's ordinance states that political signs cannot exceed 8 square feet in area and no more than 5 feet in height while being 15 feet away from the curb. So the Republican organization found its own way to comply with the ordinance. They posted a video on Facebook showing how they cut each sign into 4 2x4 pieces. Polling places in Kansas are set to open in about 25 minutes, and our own Jesse Irwin joins us live from Pittsburgh, where voters are gearing up to make their voice heard.
Yeah, well, we're here in Pittsburgh and we're getting ready. Things are going to get kicked off, as you said, in about 20-25 minutes. And this morning we're joined by Crawford County Clerk Don Pyle. And Don, thanks for joining us. I want to first ask you, this has been unprecedented in many ways. What are you proudest of when it comes to Crawford County's just electoral efforts so far?
Well, I'm really proud of the way our community helps us to be able to get out in lots of different places. We have to rely on a lot of organizations like the church here and churches, several churches in our county and different community centers to be able to rely on them to use as voting places, but also when we're trying to make announcements about early voting, things like that. If I ask community members, the Chamber of Commerce or whoever to help us spread the word or news about those kind of things, they're always willing to be be helpful to us.
Well, I think that's, a big part of this has been, in every state there's a different rule or different regulation regarding mail-in or absentee ballots. And so can you sort of give me a rundown? I mean, what numbers stick out to you in terms of what you've seen in terms of mail-in ballots, what you expect to see today? I mean, what sort of sticks out?
Well, I mean, for our mail-in, we've already hit probably, generally we have about 2,000 in a presidential election year, 2,000 to 2,500 mail-in ballots. I mean, we've had over 6,000 applied for, and we've gotten, I think it's a little north of 4,000 back already, and they're coming in, and we'll have several that'll come in even after Election Day and still be able to be counted as long as they're postmarked by today. But those in our early voting that we did at the mall and Homer Kohl Center, we usually processed maybe 300 voters a day. We were processing 800 voters a day. So it's just, and I don't think it's going to mean there'll be fewer out today. I think that's going to be kind of an on top of thing, right, because I think our turnout is, I mean, in 2016 it was about 70% countywide. I think we'll be looking at 75 to 80%. Wow. And who knows? It could be more than that. And it's interesting to look at that because I look at it all the different precincts in the county, and some of them are nearly 100%, and then some of them are less. And you kind of see as you go through the community the level, I guess, of engagement in those communities.
Well, we appreciate you taking a moment to speak with us about this. I know you're getting things ready, so we'll let you do your thing. But we'll continue to be live here this morning in Pittsburgh as the polls open up here at 7 o'clock. They're open in other states. We'll continue to have your election coverage. We'll send it back to the studio.
All right, thanks, Jesse. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, Puerto Ricans head to the polls to vote on statehood. We'll have the latest. Plus, are you worried there could be civil unrest after the election? We're going to let you weigh in our Something to Talk About. But first, it's 6:37.
And if it's 6:37, then we would find, well, it's a little bit past, but that's all right because I love Don Pyle, and sunrise is going to be here in 6 minutes. 6:45 is where sunrise will be over Joplin. It's going to be sunny and warm. It is going to be windy and dry, so that will elevate our fire risk as we head through the rest of the week. But it's going to be an absolutely delightful Election Tuesday. We'll be back with Nation Watch next.
Topping Nation Watch this morning on the final day of the campaign, both President Trump and his Democratic challenger Joe Biden held rallies in swing states, including Pennsylvania. The Keystone State has emerged as the campaign's most hotly contested battleground. In a tweet on Monday, President Trump predicted, without providing evidence, that there would be rampant and unchecked cheating in Pennsylvania, as well as violence in the streets. Well, today, the people of Puerto Rico will vote on whether they want their territory to become a state. A referendum on the ballot supports making Puerto Rico the 51st U.S. state, but the referendum is non-binding. That means it will still be in the hands of Congress whether Puerto Rico receives statehood. Currently, the island is a U.S. territory, and that means Puerto Ricans are natural-born U.S. citizens, but they cannot vote in the general election unless they live in a state. They also do not have a vote in Congress. This is the third time this decade that Puerto Ricans have voted on the matter. Voters were in favor of statehood twice, back in 2012 and 2017. Construction crews build barricades around the White House ahead of election results. Workers built a non-scalable fence outside the White House less than a day before the polls closed. Barricades are similar to those erected when protests erupted earlier this year following the death of George Floyd. The Capitol isn't the only city seeing beefed up security. The National Guard arrived in Chicago on Monday, expecting an uptick in violence. Other cities like LA and Detroit have seen businesses boarding up storefronts. That's a look at today's top national stories. We'll be right back. We take this time to honor today's four-state hero. Sergeant Derek Clark served in the United States Army from 2004 to 2005. And 2009 to 2010, he fought in Iraq. His hometown, Hume, Missouri. We are proud to salute Derek Clark, our 4-state hero.
Let's start the birthday list off with a big number 2 for the man in plaid, Luke Walsh. Luke, I want you to have a marvelous birthday, my man, as he celebrates in Girard.
All right, and we've got Mackenzie Short celebrating birthday number 3 this year. What a sweetheart there. Happy birthday, Mackenzie.
And Brinley Marsh, she is also celebrating her 3rd birthday, a crown fit for a princess right there. Happy birthday to Brinley in Fort Scott.
Caleb Yarnell celebrating birthday number 8 this year in Erie, Kansas. Hope you had a great day yesterday, Caleb.
And Marley Moore, happy 8th birthday to you. I love your puppy right there. I want you to take that weekend birthday and celebrate it all this week, Miss Marley.
All right, Avery Morris turning 8 years old. Happy birthday, Avery.
What's up, Avery? Have a good one, kiddo. Ryder Holcomb now double digits as he turns 10. Now, that's a homemade pencil that he has in his hand right there. Now, get this. His grandmother made that for them.
Aww.
How cool is that? Happy birthday, Ryder in Chanute.
Well, the party's on in Columbus today for the Dueling twins, Madison and Morgan, celebrating birthday number 11 this year.
Hey, Liliana, I want you to know that this birthday wish also comes with love from Mom and Dad. I want you to have a marvelous 11th birthday.
All right, Joanna Makuchi celebrating birthday number 13 this year. Joanna is in Joplin.
Taylor Johnston is now 18. Taylor, a happy birthday to you in Edna.
Travis Shank in Farlington turning 26 years old this year. Happy birthday, Travis.
Now, a little group picture here, but on the far left, I want to point out Jessica Zwollen as she celebrates her 29th birthday. Happy birthday to Jessica in Oswego.
Good group of girls there. And Jason Fagan.
Who that is?
Nice hat there, Jason. Hope you're having fun turning 40 this year.
Ah, the big 4-0, huh? Happy birthday, Jason. Trevor DeMott, he is celebrating his 41st birthday. Great family photo right there. I hope you guys had a marvelous time on the vacay. Trevor's in Fort Scott.
In Pittsburgh, Greg Lovell turning 49 years old. Happy birthday.
Oh, look at this. We got a marvelous 66th birthday for our good friend Joe Goebel. Joe, have a marvelous, marvelous day. Joe celebrating in Arma.
And we've got Robert Underwood turning 70 years old this year in Bronson, Kansas.
I'm going to run out to Franklin, where Catherine McDaniel has a 78th birthday. Happy birthday to you, Catherine.
And let's see, Winona Godeke.
Oh, Miss Godeke.
Turning 89 years old.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to Winona in McCune.
Happy birthday, Miss Godeke. I don't think I've ever called her by her first name. I always just call her Miss Godeke. Happy birthday, Miss Godeke. Leroy Barrett, a happy birthday to you. Leroy is celebrating in Columbus.
All right, it's a 13th anniversary down in Springdale, Arkansas for the Evans. Congrats going out to Jesse and Samantha.
And Roger and Brandy Rush, they're celebrating their 19th anniversary. What a gorgeous picture right there. Congratulations to the Rushes in Jasper.
All right, we've got a great story here with
this
Steve
is cool. This is too cool.
Darlene Allen celebrating 48 years together there in Joplin.
Now go tell the story. This is marvelous.
Okay, so last summer, as I understand, Darlene was diagnosed with breast cancer, and Steve was by her side through all of it. What a wonderful couple. We wish them the best and many more together.
That's a way to get me a little choked up during birthday anniversaries, Allen family. Hey, congratulations to Allen. That's tremendous. That's tremendous. Hey, I get to do this next one. I get to do it.
Fair.
No. Hold on. I'm going to tell you why I want to do it. Go ahead and flip it, guys. Go ahead and flip it. I share the birthday with my best friend. That is true story. I had the very fortunate and honor to meet a gentleman by the name of Alan Robinson, who is my best friend in the entire world, and we share the same birthday. So while that picture's up there, happy birthday, A-Rob. Slip says, what's up? Boom, there it is. I told him I wish him a happy birthday today. Who that is next? Guess who shares a birthday?
I don't even get to wish you happy birthday.
Yeah! Sia Teco shares a birthday. I tell you what, we're fortunate to have her as a wonderful sports reporter. Andy, we all love you. We love the stories and the highlights that you bring us. You do an awesome job and look forward to working with you here sometime soon, whether it be a weekend, whether it be a weekday. I love working with you.
Michael doesn't want me to say anything, but he has made working here just wonderful.
You know I love you. The Allen family already got me choked up. Don't get me started.
Oh, Michael, if we could go back to his picture, just put it up there. Everyone here adores you, Michael, and we just want you to have the most wonderful birthday. Many more, obviously, but stay here with us. We love you. So glad that you came back a few years back. Sad that you left us. We're back. We're together. Woohoo!
I love all of you. I have the best morning crew known to man. You guys don't understand. You guys at home don't understand how much I love working here. Britt Commons, happy birthday in Cherokee.
Got me choked up.
Yeah, you got me. Lloyd Hellwig. Lloyd, a happy birthday as he celebrates his 82nd in Columbus. Jan Campbell, birthday was yesterday, but you know what, Jan? I'm going to carry it over into today. And a happy 78th to you and Gerard. And last but not least, 52 years of marriage. Congratulations to Robert and Janice Robb as the Robbs celebrate in Devon. So happy birthday and happy anniversary to all on this November 3rd. Last time it happened, 1992, by the way. Election Tuesday.
That's pretty cool.
Now, let's clean up our acts, folks. Here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. If you want to be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club, all you have to do is go to our website and sign up. And when you do, you're going to get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com. Sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today. Happy birthday, Michael. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Election Day 2020 has finally arrived, as is tradition. The first Election Day ballots were cast just after midnight in the New Hampshire town of Dixville Notch. Over 97 million Americans voted prior to today. That's a record for early voting, and it's almost 2/3 of the total number of ballots cast in 2016. If you're planning on casting your vote today, poll hours vary from state to state. In Missouri, the polls are already open and they'll close at 7 p.m. As long as you're in line by 7, you can still vote. For Kansas and Oklahoma, polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And in Arkansas, you can vote from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Well, some Jasper County voters ran into long lines on the last day of early voting. The doors closed at 5 p.m. and during the day, people were voting at both the Jasper County Courthouse in Carthage and at the Joplin location. Due to a trial taking place on the same floor as voting in Joplin, some people had to wait in line for up to an hour to get an in vote. Space was limited to nearly standing room only. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
It's going to be a delightful Election Tuesday. Plenty of sunshine, dry, a little bit windy, so a limited fire hazard. Don't burn anything outdoors. That'll be our theme for the rest of the week. It's going to be delightful. Tanya, 26 minutes ago, Franklin County, Ohio, which includes Columbus proper, has decided it's going to paper polling books and will not be electronic today.
Wow.
Let it begin.
Wow, that's
Here we
gonna
go.
be fun.
I'm sure we'll have plenty of more information for you at noon. But yeah, that just coming in from Hamilton County, Ohio.
Yes, of course, coming up today at noon, we're going to have your latest election stories from across the nation, show you how things are going.
Have a great, safe Election Tuesday. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And again today at noon.
Today's Pledge is brought to you by Freeman Health System.